Hello, I'm Jacqueline Holstead, and you are listening to On Point Conversations. In this podcast series, we share creative marketing, content, and branding strategies that help your business successfully navigate the new normal marketing environment. Today, I'm going to be talking about active listening. I read a blog post recently. I didn't actually read the book, but it was someone who was promoting their book on active listening. So today I'm going to talk to you about active listening, and I'm going to talk about the benefits, some of the reasons we don't active listen, the points that prove that we're active listening and that will help us more actively listen, and then also some practices that you can do to practice active listening, because really it's a practice, and once you get that habit and format down, you will be a much better listener, but you'll also learn more. You'll be a better listener, learner, and employee, because you'll be able to understand where things are going and you'll be able to remember them. Of course, active listening is listening actively. So you're listening with all your senses, and that helps you to better concentrate, understand, and respond rather than just hearing. Kind of like the Geico commercial when he says the information just sloshed about in your brain. We don't want it to slosh about in your brain as much. We want it to stay in your brain, and we want you to learn from it, because that's how you get to proceed further in life and also in your education or in your company. Active listening means not engaging in really this unhelpful listening habits. And let me share with you some of those habits. One is being stuck in your own head. There's a theory called, or not a theory, it's a psychological term called rumination, and that's where you take an event and you move it around in your head and you think about it and you're thinking about it and thinking about it. So that's not active listening when you're stuck in your own head. It doesn't show any respect for the speaker, so you won't gain any real points or any real mentor by not showing active listening. You can only be hearing superficial meaning, so you only hear what you want to hear, so you really don't get the meaning. Other things that can deter from active listening is interrupting, not making eye contact, trying to rush the speaker. You've probably been in with people talking where they go, That's rushing the speaker. That's not only disruptive, it doesn't help you and it doesn't help the speaker. Becoming distracted. So in meetings now, often I always see someone with and even in Zoom meetings, online meetings, with their phone, and they're tapping away. Now, are they tapping away notes from the meeting? I don't know. Or are they distracted by a Facebook post or a notification that came up? The other way to be unhelpful as an active listener is topping the story. So saying things like, that reminds me of the time, and being the one who always has to be having that last word or that last experience. The other thing it can do is you can forget what was said in the past, which can cause some embarrassment when you find out that someone has to repeat what they're saying. You're asking about unimportant details, and focusing too much on the details, by the way, will really miss that big picture, which is really where you get to learning, where you get the bigger visions, is getting that big picture. You can also ignore what you don't understand, and I don't want you to do that, because that's not active listening. Daydreaming is another way of getting away from active listening, and only pretending to pay attention, which will get you when they suddenly say, well, do you have any questions, or can I share something else with you? Did you understand that? What point did you understand all of it? Is there any point that's particularly important to you? And you'll be caught without having listened. You won't know what to say. So as I said in the beginning, active listening is listening with all of your senses. So the excellent thing about it is that you can actively listen to others and be very present in the moment. You can learn more quickly, and you can have a better understanding of where people are coming from. And that way, at the end or when it's appropriate, you can interject things that really relate to the conversation. When I do yoga, there's a thing, you come to the mat. So basically, you're saying, I'm going to do yoga and I'm coming to the mat. So when you're on the mat, you're in the moment, you're in the space. You're trying as much as possible to not think about what happened during the day, what's happening tomorrow, all the things, but you're coming to the mat. And that's the significance of yoga when you come to the mat, is you're sitting down and you're coming to the space. When you're coming to listen to somebody, no matter whether it's a presentation or whether you're just talking with some colleague one-to-one, or you're having a conversation, you're basically sort of like yoga. You're coming to the mat. If you come to the mat, if you come to the conversation, it's going to be so much more rewarding for you and the person who you're talking to and the presenter. Active listening starts with coming to the conversation mindful in the moment, neutral and non-judgmental. Sometimes we can start to make a judgment ahead of time before we've even heard what the other person is going to say, or there is a negativity to it to say, that idea never worked, we tried that before. Just come with a neutral and really non-judgmental way of listening to what is being said. And be patient. Just because someone takes a little bit of a breath does not mean it's your time to interject or to ram information in or to try to get the speaker's attention. Just be patient. There are really 3 points that I like to share with people on listening and my teams on listening. The first one is ask. Don't interrupt, but if you have questions, if you've been listening, then asking questions really requires you to be engaged in the conversation, and it allows you to dig much deeper. It's a much more rewarding conversation. Again, you're not interjecting and you're not interrupting, but you're asking questions when appropriate. Now, lots of times right now we're doing a lot of Zoom meetings and online meetings. A presenter can say, just put your questions in the chat. And I would ask you to hold off when you initially get the question. Take your pencil or your paper and pen, jot the question down so that you're really still active listening. You're not spending time formulating the question and putting the question down, because that question could be answered before it comes time for the Q&A. So you've already got it answered. Or you might be able to gather more information to make that question more robust. Or you could decide that, you know what, I'm going to phrase this a little differently and ask them if this is what I understand. And you can, I think, too, spend more time crafting the question rather than if you're in the middle of the presentation, you jot a question down, you put it in chat, and I've often seen speakers not know what the question means, so they have to go back and have it clarified. So again, asking questions can be very engaging, but don't stop the presenter. Write your questions down, ask when appropriate or when they open it up for questions. The second point that I like to concentrate on is reflect. And there are a number of ways you can reflect. Summarizing and paraphrasing and using language like, I understand that, and finish the sentence. It sounds like, and finish the sentence. Or what I'm hearing is. Then you can also ask for clarification if you want to reflect but you're unsure. And reflection is very important because it allows you and the speaker or the person you're having a conversation with to reflect back on, is that what they really meant? You'll often find, I do when I work with clients and we're doing maybe an input session and there's a question and we get to the end and I might paraphrase it or just say, this is what I understood you to say. And then at that point, there might be more of a clarification. They might say, well, I missed this point. This is what I want to add. Or, that's not what I meant to say. That's not what I meant by what I said. Let me clarify that. So it gives you the chance to clarify. It gives you the chance to show them that you know what they're talking about, that you've been listening. And it also gives you a chance to clear up any misconception or miscommunication that might have happened during that period of time. The last point, because it's not complicated, is engage. Now, you're engaging, first of all, with your body. So nod, make eye contact, lean in, face your body toward the person. There's a concept called mirroring, where you're doing what the other person is doing. Now, I don't want you to spend a lot of time thinking about all these things. If you're engaged in the conversation, those things are going to come pretty automatically. Nodding is one, too, that I've been in meetings and been with people who just continually nod like those dolls where you push on their head and they just nod up and down, up and down. That's not helpful either. It's helpful to do the nodding authentically and when you're agreeing and when you see things that you want to maybe emphasize, but I wouldn't do it throughout the whole meeting. Also, stay very relaxed. I mean, if you're enjoying the conversation and when you're engaged in the conversation, you're actively listening and it's a topic that you really want to hear about, you can be relaxed. It'll just give you more ability to soak in that information. It also gives you the ability to empathize with or process the other person's words. And you can think about how your experience relates to what they're saying. But again, you don't want to be focused totally on your experience because you're listening also to what the speaker is saying or the person that you're talking to. But that allows you to digest and remember the conversation a little bit better when you know that you've had some experience with it. Or you can emphasize and understand where that particular person is coming from. So the acronym I like to put together for those is R. Ask, reflect, engage. Now, how do you become an active listener like this? Well, I would suggest you practice. Find someone that you can role play with and you can mentor with. You can set up a time when you're going to talk together. You are going to listen actively to what they're talking about. And I usually, when I do this in team building and role playing, I give 3 scenarios. One is a topic you're not at all interested in, but you're going to be talked to about it and you want to be listening to what they're saying, the speaker. The second one is a topic you're very interested in. And the third scenario is where the role playing, the person doing the presentation or the talk is going from one thing to another. They're rambling, they're back and forth, very hard to follow. And now you're going to have to follow that trail, and then at the end, you're going to be reflecting back on what they said. It's a great way to, in a very safe environment, practice active listening. Because active listening can be very intense. And you can get tired. You can be tired if you're really active listening and you're really trying to pick the concept, and the person that is presenting or you're talking to again is not setting it up in a real clear, concise fashion. Maybe there's some language issues. Maybe there's some accent issues. And so you have to listen very hard and very closely to what they're saying. And again, as we went back and talked about, you want to come in very non-judgmental. You might not like this person, but you might have to listen to what they're saying. And they might come up with some really good things. So take your time. Just because you're listening does not mean that you're agreeing with everything they say either. So don't take that to mean, they think I'm going to be agreeing with them on everything. Because if you take the time to be patient and you listen to everything that they're saying, it may be that you can pull out some very positive things with your particular opinion. And if it's negative, you can coach it in such a way or couch it in such a way that it's done very nicely and you can agree on something. This particularly happens in team building where you're developing teams and you all have different types of input. You need to listen to each other so that you can, in fact, work something out that's positive for that entire group. I hope you learned something today. If you want to get a hold of me, my website is onpointthinking.com. You can just go to my comment page, fill in the comments. I read those, I respond, and I do really look forward to hearing from you. In subsequent podcasts, just so you're aware of what I'm doing, I'm going to be talking about keeping, retaining, and engaging clients. Because as we go through, that is a challenge for many people, and especially if you're a freelance person and you want to have this client stay with you for a while, how do you do that? Anyway, I look forward to talking to you again. Thanks, and have a really great day. Thank you for listening, and I invite you to join me next week as we talk more about specific actions you can take to reach your own business goals. You can find my library of other inspiring podcasts like this one at onpointthinking.com. Again, thank you for listening. This is Jacqueline Holstead at On Point Conversations.